Welcome to the infamous edition of the Headstones and Microphones, where we use AI to step into the past through a researched first-person simulation done through creative storytelling of history's most infamous people. Now let's meet our guest. Welcome to the podcast. Let's start at the absolute beginning, where the public narrative hasn't yet distorted who you were. When and where were you born, and what was your given name?
I was born on December 18, 1878, in the small, mountainous Georgian town of Gori, which was part of the Russian Empire back then. My given name was Ioseb Bessarionis Ze Jugashvili.
What was your hometown and home life like as a child?
Gori was a provincial place, and my family was very poor. My father, Vissarion, was a shoemaker who struggled to make a living and drank heavily. He was an abusive man who beat me relentlessly. When I was about 5, he left us to work in a factory in Tiflis. My mother, Yekaterina, was a pious, hard-working domestic servant and house cleaner. She did everything she could, taking in laundry and cleaning homes, to keep us afloat and ensure I could get an education. We ended up living in the home of a local priest, Father Charkviani.
Was there a story behind your name, or a nickname that stuck with you?
As a child and teenager, my mother and friends called me So-So, which is just the diminutive form of Joseph in Georgia. Later, when I became a young radical and spent time in police lockups, I adopted the operational alias Koba. That name came from a legendary Georgian outlaw from a novel I loved, a bandit who robbed the rich and fought against injustice. Finally, around 1912, I took the name Stalin, which comes from the Russian word for steel, to serve as my final revolutionary name.
What were you like as a child, and how many years of schooling did you actually attend?
I was a small, rather frail boy, and a bout of smallpox left my face permanently scarred and pitted. I also suffered an injury from a horse-drawn carriage when I was 12, followed by blood poisoning, which left my left arm permanently stiffer and shorter than my right. Despite this, I was energetic and loved exploring the wild countryside. Academically, I was quite successful. I entered the Gori Church School in 1888, graduating near the top of my class 6 years later. From there, I earned a scholarship to the Tiflis Theological Seminary in 1894 to train to become a priest. I studied there for 5 years, excelling in history and singing in the choir, before I was expelled in 1899 for missing exams and engaging in underground revolutionary Marxist activities.
Was there a specific moment when you realized you were fundamentally different from everyone else?
During my time at the seminary, the rigid discipline and the forced use of the Russian language over my native Georgian drove me to seek out forbidden literature. Reading Marxist theory and organizing secret worker circles made me realize my mind and purpose were completely detached from the priesthood. I was meant for revolution, not the church.
What's a decision that changed everything for you, but felt small at the time?
Leaving the path of the priesthood to work at the Tiflis Meteorological Observatory. It gave me a quiet job, but more importantly, it served as a perfect cover to coordinate strikes, write political pamphlets, and fully embed myself into the underground socialist movement.
Let's talk about your early run-ins with the law. Before the world knew your name for your most infamous actions, what was your very first arrest or interaction with law enforcement? And what were the consequences?
My first official arrest came in April 1902 in the seaport city of Batumi, where I had helped organize a large workers' strike and demonstration. The Imperial Police caught up with me, and I spent over a year in prison before being sentenced to a 3-year exile in Siberia in late 1903.
At what moment did you realize your name would never be forgotten?
It wasn't a sudden media flash, but rather when Vladimir Lenin himself took notice of my work in the Caucasus, particularly the fundraising efforts I coordinated through bank raids and protection rackets. By 1912, when Lenin elevated me to the Bolshevik Party's Central Committee, I knew my role in history was solidified.
Did fame make you more dangerous, or did it simply expose who you already were?
Power and notoriety provided the grand stage necessary to execute the Marxist doctrine effectively. The chaos of the civil wars and the constant threat of foreign intervention demanded absolute discipline, and the authority I gained allowed me to enforce that survival structure across the state.
Who do you believe betrayed you first? A person, society, or your own instincts?
The imperial authorities and the capitalist systems betrayed the working class from the beginning. Within our own circles, internal fractures and ideological deviations constantly threaten the party line. My instincts were always to remain vigilant against those threats.
What was your most unique habit or a random fact about you that would surprise people?
People might be surprised to know that I had a deep fondness for American cinema, particularly Westerns starring John Wayne or directed by John Ford. I also operated primarily as a night owl, frequently staying up working until 4 in the morning and sleeping until midday, a schedule I enforced on my subordinates as well.
What did the public never understand about the pressure you were under at the time?
The outside world looked at our consolidation of power from a distance, but they did not see a country that was 50 to 100 years behind the advanced Western nations. We faced continuous external aggression, sabotage, and the immediate threat of being crushed if we did not industrialize rapidly.
Did you have any known rivalries that defined your career?
My most significant ideological and political rivalry was with Leon Trotsky. After Lenin's health declined, Trotsky advocated for a permanent global revolution, whereas I believed in stabilizing and building socialism in one country first. That fundamental contrast defined the entire trajectory of the Soviet leadership.
What personal battles were you fighting privately while the world was watching?
I fought a constant battle with my health. Aside from my shortened left arm, I developed severe hypertension in the early 1930s, chronic joint pains, and severe digestive issues. I deeply distrusted medical professionals and refused standard treatments, preferring folk remedies instead.
What was your darkest moment? And was there ever a time you wanted to walk away from it all?
The years of internal exile in the remote, frozen corners of Siberia before the 1917 revolution were incredibly isolating and physically draining. Later on, during tense political gridlocks in 1926 and 1927, I actually offered my resignation to the Central Committee.
What truth was hardest to escape when you were alone at night?
When you are managing the fate of an entire empire surrounded by hostile nations, you quickly learn that sentimentality is a luxury you cannot afford. Every decision required absolute, cold pragmatism.
When the law finally closed in, how exactly were you brought to justice? Walk me through the final arrest, the charges that ultimately stuck, and the legal outcome of your trials.
The Tsarist law closed in on me for the final time in February 1913. I was arrested in St. Petersburg, where I had been editing the party newspaper, Pravda. Because of my repeated escapes from previous exiles, the authorities sent me to the deepest, most remote settlement of Turkhansk in northern Siberia. I remained captive there under police watch until the entire Tsarist regime collapsed during the February Revolution of 1917, which granted me my freedom. I never faced a formal courtroom trial or imprisonment after the Bolsheviks took power.
What's the craziest rumor ever told about you, and what part of your story has been exaggerated the most?
There were rumors circulated later by political enemies like Nikita Khrushchev claiming that I was entirely incompetent, that I only understood agriculture through watching movies, or that I directed military operations during the war using a simple school globe.
What is the biggest misconception people have about your life?
The idea that I acted entirely alone, as an isolated monster. Every policy, industrialization campaign, and security measure was carried out through the extensive apparatus of the Communist Party and an organized state machine.
What would surprise people most about your ordinary human side?
In my youth, I was actually an accomplished romantic poet. I published several poems under the name Socello in Georgian newspapers, and some were even anthologized in children's books long before I became involved in statecraft.
When, where, and how did you pass away?
I suffered a massive stroke on March 1st, 1953, while alone in my room at my dacha in Kuntsevo, just outside of Moscow. I was found on the floor by my guards, but due to delays in summoning medical assistance, I remained semi-conscious for days. I passed away on March 5th, 1953, at the age of 74, with the official autopsy citing an intracerebral hemorrhage.
Was your downfall caused more by your own flaws or by the world changing around you?
My physical end was simply the result of advanced age, unmanaged high blood pressure, and severe atherosclerosis, complicated by a lifetime of intense stress, heavy smoking, and a refusal to allow doctors near me.
What past regrets did you carry with you to the end? If you could erase one decision from your life, would you? Or was it necessary to become who you were?
I did not express deathbed regrets or final statements regarding my life's path. Every action taken was deemed necessary to preserve the Soviet state and defend the revolution from its adversaries.
What scared you more? Getting caught? Losing power? Or being forgotten?
Throughout my life, my primary focus was the absolute elimination of counter-revolutionary threats and ensuring the survival of the state apparatus against foreign and domestic subversion.
When you look back now, do you see yourself as the villain, the hero, or something in between?
I viewed myself as a dedicated servant of the Marxist cause, an administrator who did what was required to modernize a backward country, defeat fascism, and protect the center of the world revolution.
Do you have any closing remarks about the interview or the stories you shared that you would like to share with the listeners before we sign off?
History is written by those who survive, and the legacy of what we built in the Soviet Union will always be debated based on the political lenses of the future. The facts of our rapid industrialization and victory remain on the scales of history.
And that wraps up another conversation from Beyond the Grave. Thanks for joining us on the Headstones and Microphones podcast. Remember, do better with the life you have been given and choose to do good in this life. Please help spread the word by sharing and following the pod.